Americans.
Oh, they don't feel vulnerable.
No.
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Truth be said.
And it's, let's see, I guess I can move this.
And remember, when I say
Yeah.
we may end up with 240 million humans left on Earth, that's 2/3 of the American population. Why couldn't those 240 million people be mostly American?
Right.
I'm not advocating that. I'm just doing math.
Oh,
Okay, I'm just doing math.
Right.
I don't think Americans deserve that.
Deserve what?
To be the only 240 million people left on Earth.
Oh, yeah, the 240.
I don't think Americans have deserved that privilege.
240 million?
Yeah.
Is that the 99%?
That's 3% of the current population.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I guess we have our we could actually use this if we, but then I have to make sure, then that's how, oh, right, then we don't have to be that close, right, because you have that. You have to turn that on. But then I have to go over to here, right, to see, or do you think it automatically?
I don't know.
You should
double check it.
I guess I would go to my system preferences, and then I go to my audio sound. Did you have it on?
No.
You turned on the device? No, not yet. I guess you can't. Let's see.
I need more words in that
Is
sentence.
the mixer on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to choose it. I chose it.
Yeah, and I think what
That's
you're
nice.
noticing, and you should remember this for future reference, the computer is smart enough to notice that a microphone just
Something's
jumped on,
Right.
and so it makes that available preferentially.
Right. And that if something's in the
And
USB
why wouldn't it
port,
do that?
right, if it's in the USB port.
The USB protocol is pretty
Right.
smart.
Yeah. So we were just talking about a wicked problem. And I think the only thing I noticed today was how we are really homo humongous, and that just in our cars, we use so many resources. That was one thing. And then Mary was saying to me something about that she was concerned that, we don't care about animal life, and we're just, that people need to know not to be eating animal life. That was one thing that she was saying. And yeah, I mean, we are, that is a big part of how this, coronavirus started, is the eating of the
Right.
wildlife.
It's true.
And then they're saying people are more hunting under coronavirus so that they can have more food. And that's the end of a lot of, we're having, sixth mass extinction. How do you know? Could you tell us about that? Like, when was the fifth mass extinction?
I don't actually know how they're numbered. It would have to be either or the KT boundary. The PETM was about 50 million years ago. It stands for Paleocene Eocene Thermal Maximum. And it was when the Earth was already a hot place, but because of, I think it was a volcanic activity, more CO2 was launched into the atmosphere and the Earth became hotter by quite a bit.
What year? When is this?
About 50 million years ago.
50
So sometime
million.
after the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Okay. Right.
And it got really hot,
Mm-hmm.
but the Earth was already hot. So it didn't matter a lot that it got really, really hot, because the life was adapted to heat. So it's a bit like the desert. You're getting really hot all of a sudden. It's like, well, okay, that's not great, but it's not going to be lethal. And I think
before the ice ages.
The only big extinction part of the PETM was maybe in the oceans. Then the one just before that, which was definitely a mass extinction, was the KT, the Cambrian Tertiary Extinction Event, which was a impactor, a comet, not a comet, an asteroid that hit the Earth.
That was the dinosaur.
The Chicxulub, the Chicxulub impactor that hit the Earth at the Yucatan Peninsula, and almost certainly drove a huge fraction of life to extinction. It was mega, absolutely amazing. So I don't know which
And
the fifth one was.
That was 65 million years ago. Is
That
the
was 65.
extinction.
The KT.
So 50 million is less. So it's after the dinosaurs.
So I don't know which they count as the fifth.
Right.
Was it
Was
the PETM or was it the KT?
But those are the
boundaries?
two. Those are the two that are
it would be one
the
of those two.
last
The
two.
fifth one would
Those
be
are
one
the
of those
last
two.
two.
Now,
Yeah.
the key to both of those is there were no humans around, and nothing on Earth did this. The KT extinction was extraterrestrial. It was impactor from space, and the PETM was tectonic. It was a volcanic eruption. I think that was in the Siberian Traps.
What does PETM stand for?
Paleocene Eocene thermal maximum.
I see. And is that when
it was a sudden increase in Earth temperature. It was really huge.
Right, and that's when we went to 10 degrees C, right? 10 degrees C above.
It was at least 10 degrees C above whatever it was at the time, and that's hot. Right. That's really freaking hot.
Right, and that
on top of being hot already.
Right. Oh, okay.
This was not snowball Earth. This was the Earth was probably the same temperature from pole to pole, more or less.
Before that.
At 50 million years ago, there was no ice. There's already no ice anywhere on the planet.
Before the ice ages?
Don't hold me to that. But that's why.
Is that considered before the ice ages?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no ice.
There was no ice anywhere on the planet.
They started around 20 million, right? Is that my number? Did I get it right? 20 million?
I thought it was 2 to 4 million.
Is that when the ice ages started?
Yeah. The current round of ice ages didn't start until about 4 million years ago.
I was just wondering if all ice ages. Was there another ice age?
Oh yeah, there have been a couple. Yeah,
that's what I was talking about. 20 million.
But the one that we associate with
that we're in
Earth right now, that we're kind of still in,
right?
Until all the ice is gone, right?
Right.
We're still in the current ice age.
Do they name these ice ages? No, they just.
They probably do, but I couldn't tell you what they are.
Right. But they started basically in 20 million. That all of them, right? That cycle of ice.
No, we had snowball Earth like. 2.4 billion.
Well, that was that one. That was snowball.
I'm just saying.
But then after that, the ice ages they started about.
The cyclical ice ages have happened periodically for the same reason, which is carbon dioxide gets pulled out. Started. I've heard two dates: 4 million and 2 million.
Oh, 2 to 4 million years. But 20 million is when all the ice ages kind of started, and we went back and forth.
No, I never said that.
No, okay, then I got that.
No, I don't know where you got that.
All right, fine. So 2 to 4 million years ago is the ice age that we're in now. And it was dealing, but the PETM is when the CO2.
That's 50 million years ago.
Right, the CO2, that was a mass extinction because of this.
I don't want to characterize the PETM as a mass extinction. I know it was hard, and a lot of animals went extinct, in particular, I think, in the ocean. But I'm not sure it counts as a mass extinction. It really should, but I don't know that it does. So you were asking me when was the fifth one? If we're in the sixth one now, when was the fifth one? And it's one of those two candidates.
But it is. So the PETM was a mass extinction. Then it definitely was a mass extinction.
I don't know if it was.
Well, it definitely.
Because I don't know how they determine these things.
I see. You're not sure, but it had a big impact. It's something that happened on Earth.
Yeah.
CO2 went up high. That was, and I think I think you've always told me that was a mass extinction.
Well, there was a lot, but it was uneven. The KT extinction caused by the impactor was across went extinct.
Yeah.
Generally based upon size. This, for example, the dinosaurs, the non-avian dinosaurs, all went extinct.
Dinosaurs. That was the 5 major mass extinctions. Ordovician mass extinction. Ordovician period, 440 million years ago. Suspected cause is continental drift and subsequent climate change. I see. So that's when the continents were moving 440 million years ago, right? That's what they mean by that? And there was a climate change that happened as a
result of
continental drifts. Yeah, that makes sense. And so we lost a lot of species there. The second major mass extinction was the Devonian mass extinction, and that was 375 million years ago. And lack of oxygen in the oceans, quick cooling of air temperatures, volcanic eruptions, and/or meteor strikes. All right, and then
it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So they're kind of grasping at straws.
The Permian mass extinction was 250 million years ago, unknown, possibly asteroid strikes, volcanic activity. So again, whenever we have volcanic activity, that is synonymous with CO2 levels going up,
Yeah.
right?
And when they say, oh, volcanic activity, they don't mean a volcano. They mean thousands of them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Or an area the size of a continent becomes covered in lava. Okay. That's
Right.
what happened in
And
the
it puts
Siberian
out a lot of
traps.
CO2.
Yeah.
And then that's heat trapping.
Yeah.
And then we get temperatures that could kill
global heating.
Global heating. And like when we
rain. And they're both dangerous. The acid rain is toxic.
Right. Climate change and microbes. That was the Permian extinction. And then let's see. The fourth major mass was the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction that you talked about. That's the one you talked about.
That's a different one.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, this is the end of the Triassic period and the Mesozoic era. That was 200 million years ago. Yeah. More than half of all living species eliminated. Major volcanic activity again with basalt flooding. Basalt flooding. That's the in Russia where they
basalt flooding means these lavas ooze out onto the surface, and it's not like a volcano is exploding. A crack opens in the earth, and the earth's contents ooze out onto the surface, and some of these cracks can be thousands of miles long, and so there's this huge volcanic shield that just flows out over the landscape, and of course
things die.
And of course that will kill things like a bulldozer, right? Like a steamroller,
because it's rock. It's just hot rock.
Just kills things underneath it, and then the gases that come off of the lava are released into the atmosphere, and they change the atmospheric chemistry and physics.
And changing pH, global climate change, changing pH and sea levels of the ocean. That's what caused the fourth. And the fifth is the KT mass extinction, which is 65 million years ago, extreme asteroid or meteor impact. The sixth major mass extinction happening now. Is it possible that we are in the midst of the sixth major mass extinction? Many scientists believe we are. A number of known species have been lost since humans' evolution. Since these mass extinction events can take millions of years, perhaps we are witnessing the sixth major mass extinction event as it happens. Whether or not humans will survive is yet to be determined. So they're even putting it in there as,
It's fair.
Right.
It's fair to say that.
We're
not immune to extinction any more than any of our other predecessors were immune to extinction. They're all gone, right? So if they can all be gone for whatever reason, we could be gone.
Right.
Now we got a lot going for us. We've got all this technology. We have all this awareness of physics and chemistry and medicine, and we have more control of our destiny than our predecessors did, probably. But there's nothing to say we're going to apply our understanding correctly. But even if we don't, right? Even if we just apply it to the elites, the 1%, as I've said many times, 1% of this current population is 80 million people.
Right.
Okay, that's a lot of people. That is nowhere near an extinction event. That's just laughable. You want to call it extinction? You're on drugs. Okay, that is not an extinction event.
Says it's going to be hard for us to go extinct.
And we could apply our technology, our medicine, our life extension, everything to just 1% of the population, meaning the 1% now who run the planet, who actually run the planet. The 1% who currently run the planet could keep all the goodies for themselves. And if only 1% survived, that would be nowhere near an extinction event for humans. There'd be 80 million humans left over after everyone else has died. There'd still be 80 million humans left over. So they'd have access to all the technology, all the learning, all the history, all the culture, all the everything. Nothing lost of any kind with 80 million people around to retain all that.
Right.
And they go forward.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Just
nothing to stop them from
same thing that we talk about with COVID-19 is that, when people say, if I lose my job, I'm going to die. And we talked about this the last time. And so it's like, we have got to become resilient and figure out how we're going to survive. And the thing is, COVID-19 is doing that to us right now, getting us prepared.
Well, okay, so coronavirus, it doesn't kill a lot of people, but it has this salient feature that it's gotten people to think about their relationship with modernity. And that's a complicated way of saying people are dependent on modern agriculture, modern medicine, fossil fuels, electricity, water delivery. People People live in these wonderful homes that are meant waste removal, electricity delivery,
Food production.
food production. They don't have control over any of those things. None of them. They have a great home. They love it. They plug in their appliances. Their phone charges. The Wi-Fi comes from somewhere
Their
they don't even
car
know.
goes wherever they want.
Yeah, they just jump in the car. Don't know how a car works. Can't fix one. Can't build one. They just jump in it and they go. They have no agency of any kind. And what the pandemic reminded people by taking things away, took away restaurants away, stores away, vacations away, jobs even in many cases. By the pandemic, by just temporarily taking things away, it caused people to step back and look at their life and say, whoa, hold on, wait, I was dependent on all this, and one little tiny pandemic comes through and takes all these things away from me like the stroke of a pen. Someone can just pass an ordinance, all of a sudden I can't go to work even. Are you kidding me? Yes. No, I'm not kidding you. Yes, that's exactly your situation.
And it was this woman I was talking to today. She was in Dallas, and she was working at home. She's part of an investment group or whatever, and home now. And she goes, it's ridiculous driving an hour in and an hour out, and
It's you there, and
Right.
they don't care about your quality of life.
I know. But the other good news is some Googlers are creating a union for themselves, and so we really need more unions so that
it works. It
can-
could be that a bunch of people lose their jobs and there's no more union.
Okay.
Okay.
I know.
We'll see how
I'm
this
just
works
trying
out.
to make it so where the workers can have a voice. It's ridiculous what they're making us do, get into the office. But anyway.
Well, capitalism is going to fight
Yeah, I know.
the workers having a voice until the last bitter
Right.
drop of blood.
Right.
Okay?
And that was the story of the what happened. It was in the 13th or 14th century where we were talking about it the other day, which was the serfs or whatever. They weren't the serfs yet. They were the I guess the people of the Middle Ages, and that they had the land outside of their village, and they cooperated and worked together, and then the nobility, they said no, and they said, oh my God, they're getting stuff for free and they're doing so well, so they closed it off, and they made it theirs, and there was a rebellion, there was a fight went
Didn't
on.
do them any good.
Yeah,
They just died.
right. And then
Because
you
the
were
nobility,
explaining,
before the nobility started clamping down on people having agency, okay,
Right.
doing for themselves.
right,
Before the nobility clamped down on that, the nobility made sure they had all the weapons and all the armies.
Yeah.
And when the clamping down started, it wasn't the Lord on high coming down and saying to the peasants, hey, give me your shit. They sent down the troops. 200 troops came roaring down from the castle, and they did the speaking, right? At the tip of a sword. That was the first thing anyone heard, was the tip of a sword. And then, here's our demands. You give us your land, you pay us tithes, you work for us, you belong to the land, you belong to the king.
and they used guns, they used weaponry.
Yeah.
And we were talking
And
about
the
that.
troops were perfectly happy to do that because they looked at their situation. They were not serfs.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't the king, but they were just, somewhere just below the king and way above the people at the bottom. So the troops were perfectly happy. So long as they got fed and got to have parties with the king and they got to go kill people once in a while, they're perfectly happy with that.
Oh, and that was the one thing Kat was saying.
It's going to be the same way with our local police, by the way. They're perfectly happy with their situation. They're above the bottom. That's all they know.
Yeah.
And they
have a gun.
They've got lots of protections. And hey, they're very valuable. And they swagger around with their gun on their hip, looking like a stud monkey at county fair. And they know that they'll be protected.
Yeah.
And when the time comes and they have to prove their worth, they prove their worth not with intelligence, tradition,
Right.
culture, intelligence, engineering, anything else. Okay, having valuable skills, nothing. All they have to do to prove their worth is go out into the streets and shoot people and kill them. That's how they prove their worth.
Or they have
And
a gun.
These are not the sharpest guys. Okay,
Yeah.
these guys don't have a lot going on, but they have
A gun.
They have a gun,
Yeah.
and they have some weapons training,
Right.
and they lack the moral fiber to do the right thing.
Right.
So that combination of elements makes them really, really well off in any conflict between the 1% and the 99%.
Well,
They are well positioned
well, one thing that
to do well.
that Kat had brought to me was we were talking about in the UK, they are on they're in a fifth level of lockdown, very serious lockdown, and nobody will be allowed to go out unless they have
We'll see how
essential work
serious it is.
and things like that. So we were talking about it, and then the British are more civil. Was that the word you used? No, more.
Well, they're more civic-minded.
They care about.
They're more
they think
homogenous.
Yeah.
They're a much older culture
Right.
than ours. They've
many
gone
wars,
layers of civil responsibility.
Civil. They have a social structure with their government and their medical
They have lots of
care.
safety nets.
Lot of
It's
safety
actually
nets.
easy for them to take risks. Like, I'm just going to stay home, I guess, because a lot of stuff is paid for. Medical care is affordable.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the food or anything else, but I don't think they feel as vulnerable.
Right.
I don't think shopkeepers
But the point
in England are saying, or workers in England are saying, oh, if I can't get to work, I'm going to die. I don't think they say that. I don't think they say that.
Right.
That's not their reality. That's our reality. If you don't get to work, you're going to die.
And that's true. And the point that
I'm not even going to argue with it.
And then
it sounds over the top, but I'm not going to argue
but that's
with it.
The way
it
it
true.
is. I know.
If you can't get to work, you're going to die.
Don't have safety nets. And then what he said too
that's
is
true.
that Kat was saying that
you got a problem to solve.
they don't have the Second Amendment.
They don't have the
and
Second
it was like,
Amendment.
oh wow, it's like, we just have that Second Amendment. I mean, and so what was it? We had the Revolutionary War.
The Second Amendment means,
the war, the guns that we went through, the Revolutionary War, and then
the Second Amendment,
Civil War,
and
fight the Indians. That was
and
all.
broad scale gun ownership
Native Americans.
means that the governor of California can only make recommendations. Okay, the governor, whereas Boris Johnson in England can tell people, hey, stay home, no mouth. No, I want to hear any lip from you. You're staying home. Okay, no mouthing off. No lip from you. You stay home. Okay, and since people don't have, 3.5 billion weapons to pull from out of their pockets, then he can say that, and he's not worried about them coming after him with pitchforks and torches in the middle of the night.
Right.
Now here in America, nobody can say that.
Right. We saw what happened with the
nobody can say, hey, you shut up, go home. Nobody can say that. They'll kill him. Our governor is shaking in his boots
already. He is
at the prospect. But the way it works out is he doesn't say that.
So that he doesn't have to worry about them coming after him.
So he doesn't say that. He doesn't have to worry about them coming after him. And if they die or become maimed or disabled, that's not his personal problem.
Right. But we saw what happened.
That's the deal in America.
We saw what happened.
If you're going to take agency for your freedoms and you're going to fight for your freedoms and you don't want to wear a mask or social distance or anything else, you just want to be free to do anything you want to do, then you can also accept responsibility for anything bad that happens to you.
Right.
And if nothing bad happens, well, then you played your cards.
And I was seeing in the hospitals this one woman, I mean, the nurse, she just had a little, I guess it's called an N95 mask, just this cloth. I don't know how good it is compared to like a respirator that you have. I'm sure it's not as good. And,
okay, what are you trying to say?
I guess the point was when Kat said, fine, you don't want to wear a mask? Well, then we're not going to help you when you have to go to the hospital, like all these people that are suffering in the hospital.
But the healthcare workers are required to help people.
I know.
They are
recognizing. And so we should say, hey, if
they have been thrown under the bus.
And you've said this yourself.
By Gavin Newsom, the governor. They've been thrown under the bus.
And our
by the
healthcare
professionals.
Yeah.
The directors of health and all, and the president and the Congress. Okay. The healthcare workers of this country have been thrown under the bus. They are just now realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that cooler heads would prevail, and they were wrong, it turns out. So now they know. And there is now grumbling. You hear it once in a while, if you're reading the news carefully, that the healthcare workers are about to stop. They're going to stop.
Yeah.
I think they're going to stop this week.
Well, you said that you would have stopped
I would have stopped a long time ago.
And anyway, I was just saying.
Just because I don't want to die for these people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die for people who deny that
right.
there's a pandemic.
And you've
Why
always
would
said
I die for these people?
that everybody who gets coronavirus is signed up for it.
I'm a doctor. I've got 12 years of education. I've still got $1 million in loans to pay off. And you're now the expert, and coronavirus is a hoax, and you're not going to wear a mask, and now you're in here in my emergency ward, begging for oxygen, and you're going to get me sick. And what am I supposed to do with that? Well, how am I supposed to interpret this bullshit? No, I'm not going to die after 12 years of education and I got a family to take care of. No, you're going to die. Now, I wouldn't say all that, but I'd say, oh, yeah, you got coronavirus. That's, that's too bad.
You would not,
here's some free aspirin. Here's a couple packets of aspirin for you. And you should go home and sleep it off. Bye.
You are not.
Bye, Felicia.
You're not going to be in the hospitals, right?
No,
anyway,
I'd send them home.
Let's hear what this the sixth mass extinction of wildlife on Earth is accelerating, according to analysis by scientists who warn it may be a tipping point for the collapse of civilization, which is interesting.
The sixth mass extinction.
It's interesting that they jumped into the collapse of civilization because that's so independent of extinction. You see what I'm saying?
So? No.
Why would they? And warn
I'm surprised they had it.
I know, for the collapse of civilization.
Wikipedia?
I guess so. The Guardian. I guess it's on the Guardian. More than 500 species of land animals were found to be on the brink of extinction and likely to be lost within 20 years. So that was only 500. I heard there's a million.
How many?
They just said 500. More than 500 species of land animals. And that was.
Yeah, get that. There is 1 million.
In comparison, right? The same number.
The Guardian
were lost.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful with the Guardian.
Right.
Guardian. They're a little bit.
Well, this might be old. Let's see. Oh, no, 2020.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the.
They're of a mindset that they don't want to scare the horses. Okay.
Let's see what this is.
That's their approach to everything.
Without the human destruction of nature, even the rate of loss would have taken thousands of years. In comparison, the same numbers were lost over the whole of the last century. More than 500 species will be lost, they're saying, potentially extinct within 20 years. In comparison, the same number were lost over the whole of the last century.
Yeah,
without the human destruction of nature.
You can look it up. I don't know what the exact number is, but there's something like 2 species a day going extinct at this point. Not 520.
The land vertebrates on the verge of extinction with fewer than 1,000 individuals left include the Sumatran rhino, the clarion wren, the Espanola giant tortoise. Historic data was available for 77 of the species. The scientists found that these had lost 94% of their populations. The researchers also warned of a domino effect, with the loss of one species tipping others that depend on it over the edge. Extinction breeds extinctions. Well, that's the same thing with us. That's really important. Extinctions breed extinctions. And they are saying that a million species is the EPIS report, the IPIS, the Intergovernmental Panel on Environment, Ecological, Biodiversity and Ecological Services. Excuse me, they said a million. But what's interesting is extinction breeds extinction. And that's where we're on that gravy train, right? Basically, is what you said. When there's a million species, right? You can't assume that we're not going towards a collapse, if nothing else, right? Definitely a collapse, right?
Well, we depend on nature for survival more than we like to think.
Yeah. Humanity relies on biodiversity for its health and well-being, scientists said. With the coronavirus pandemic, extreme example of the dangers of ravaging the natural world. Rising human population, destruction of habitats, the wildlife trade, pollution, and the climate crisis must all be urgently tackled, they said. Urgently. When humanity exterminates other creatures, it is sawing off the limb in which it's sitting, destroying working parts of our own life support system, said Professor Paul Ehrlich, the Stanford University in the U.S. and one of the research team. The conservation of endangered species should be
as an example of sawing off the limb that you're sitting on.
For governments and institutions.
Pollinators. Now, not all of our crops need to be pollinated by insects. The grains, for example, tend to be wind pollinated, and we eat a lot of plant matter, leaves, roots, and things that are not the flower or the fruit. But there's a lot of food we eat that does need to be pollinated. So anything that's a fruit, tomatoes are a fruit, they're not a vegetable, they're a fruit. Tomatoes are a fruit, apples, pears. Some nut species, walnuts are air pollinated, but almonds are not. Almonds have to be pollinated with an insect. Strawberries are insect pollinated. So there's a lot of food that we eat, not our staples like wheat and corn, but a lot of food that we eat would not be possible currently without pollinators. Now, they could genetically engineer these plants to grow fruits without pollinators, without pollination. The flower wouldn't even be necessary. It would just put on a fruit. Strawberries come up and they just put on a little vestigial flower, but immediately the fruit grows under the flower. The flower falls up. But that's genetic engineering. We would have to do that either through selective breeding processes that can take, of course, 100 years, or through actual manipulations of the genetic material. So unless we're ready to do those things, then there's a significant slice of our food pyramid that simply wouldn't exist anymore. Now, could we survive without strawberries and nuts and tomatoes and squashes and things? Sure, we could. But, that's a lot of food you're taking off the table, literally and figuratively. And that's just pollinators.
Right. He says, Mark Wright, the director of the science at World Wildlife, the numbers in this research are shocking. However, there is still hope. If we stop the land grabbing and devastating deforestation in countries such as Brazil, we can start to bend the curve in biodiversity loss and climate change.
Yeah, it's funny that they would do that.
Ambition
so they put the whole thing on Brazil. Now, I am no friend of Jair Bolsonaro and his bullshit. I am no friend of those cattle ranchers and soybean farmers clearing the Amazon. Not a friend at all. Don't approve. But I see what they just did there. They pointed to this country, just pick one, and they didn't point at anything that's happening in the U.S. or the UK or Russia or China or anywhere else. Now, we all need to improve. Bullshit.
Right. That's what.
Okay.
Right. But
we all have a long way to go.
Right.
And they shouldn't be pointing to Brazil.
And that's what I'm talking about. 615, right here in my corner of the world.
They can point to all of modern agriculture as being a pox upon the planet. And say all of modern agriculture, including what's happening in England and the U.S. and Russia and China, has to be reformed.
Right.
They could have said that. They didn't say that. They said, "Oh, by the way, we'll start with Brazil." Okay, well,
Brazil is just the last of the insults of the way we've been doing things for a long time.
Brazil is the equivalent of Iraq. When we wanted to make a big splash in the Middle East about oil, we killed Saddam Hussein. That was theater, okay? That was just theater straight up. We're about to do the same thing with Iran. And so if we're going to make a big splash with the extinction, then we're going to go to Brazil and kill Jair Bolsonaro and hang him from a tree. That's theater. Come on. The biggest offenders are us. We are the offenders.
Right.
We're the one that caused these problems. Jair Bolsonaro and all of his planet eaters, they showed up recently. They've only been doing this for 10 years. How long has the United States been destroying habitats, forests and plains and swamps and marshlands and paving things over? How long? 200 years.
Right. Exactly.
It started with the genocide of the American Indians.
Right. Yeah.
The American natives. Yeah. Genocide. Straight up. Everyone agrees. So, why don't, what is it?
January.
Don't look at the mote in your neighbor's eye. You should look at the log in your own,
Right. Exactly. That's right. That was Jesus, right?
I don't know.
I think it was
some clever person.
All right, good. How are you doing with your work? You getting back to it?
Yeah, I need to get back to it. I'm about done with the plumbing. I'm just doing sanity checks, just going over it. I think it's done. I can do something else.
I'm going to finish your...
I have another relation. I don't feel quite as strongly about the south. There's not much there.
Okay.
But I'll draw them quickly, and then that'll be done.
Right.
And then I don't know what else there is to do. There's paperwork, and I have to get all this stuff printed as PDFs, and then we can sit it all in.
Oh, that's exciting.
We're pretty close now.
Getting a date for our plans to be looked at for our Victory House against climate change.
Yeah, this is an epic project.
Right.
This is absolutely amazing.
I was talking to Tammy, our neighbor, and she says she knows you could do it because it'll be an amazing thing that one man is going to build this whole house by himself. I can
totally do this by myself.
That's amazing.
And it's not just, I'm the only person needed to swing the hammer. There's the
There's nobody else
architecture,
here? Oh.
there's the planning, the engineering.
You're doing it all, though.
I'm doing it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting with the drawings.
And you can watch, and we will keep you, and you will get to see the whole process. All right. We love you. Goodbye. Good night. Well, that was the big thing, is that we got to start.
We haven't stopped this.
I know we didn't stop, because the last thing, because I'm working on this, my report on my neighbor that wants the community that wants our city of San Jose that wants to build a hotel. This is the crux of it. It's like, here's where we can change. We know we've declared a climate emergency, yet we need to declare an ecological emergency and start. And it has. I mean, that's what the research that was done.
We do have an ecological emergency.
Well, tell us. Yeah, that's what the IPB, right? Yeah, we have an ecological. How would you would say, because of the 1 million species that are on the
let me tie all this together for you. I'm just going to put a bunch of dots and string them together, and let's see if you can follow.
Okay.
This is how my mind works. Okay, I'm just going to do a complete brain dump here. Humans are changing the planet out from under themselves by consuming fossil carbon resources out of the ground: coal, oil, and natural gas. That must and will stop. That cannot go forward. And the elites of this planet are not going to let the plebes, the eaters, destroy the planet and strip them of their access to Earth. Okay? They're not going to let that happen. So they are, at some point, I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't have to know how they're going to do it, making it possible for us to consume fossil fuels. Now, when they do that, they will drive a stake in the heart of modern agriculture, modern medicine, the modern economy, access to electricity, water, and food for 99% of the population.
When we stop.
You want to hear this or not?
Well, I just want to.
When they stop the consumption of fossil fuels,
right,
they will drive a stake in the heart of big ag.
Of civilization, as we.
I'm being very specific, because if I say civilization, that doesn't mean much to people,
fine.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm talking very specifically about your food, your electricity, your water, your everything. Pretty much your everything,
right,
okay?
Right.
Not just your commute and your drive up Starbucks latte. I'm talking about your everything, okay? Because you are 100% dependent on fossil fuels for 100% of everything,
right?
Okay? So when they stop the fossil fuel parade in order to preserve the Earth for their uses, 99% of humanity is going to be looking for alternative habitat than a fossil fuel based existence. They're not going to find it.
Right.
Because we've been destroying suitable habitat all along.
Right.
Without fossil fuels, pretty much every place that people live now, starting with the suburbs, becomes inhospitable, unfit for human existence.
We don't have food
we built
coming in here.
Our cities in
a fossil fuel age.
People first settled because the land was rich, that we evolved to take advantage of. That has now been paved over.
Right.
So when we leave, which were created on top of the natural places where we used to survive, best marginal for human occupancy.
Why are we leaving the cities?
And as we do that, we will die.
What are you saying? We're leaving the cities. What do you mean? Why are we leaving the cities?
No food deliveries, no water delivery, no electricity delivery. Okay.
So we need urban sustainability. We need urban sustainability. We need to be planning for that.
If you want, and the elites don't have to, and there's all these conspiracy theories that there's going to be a great, culling of the human race. There's nothing of the kind. All the elites have to do is pull back the fossil fuels, disappear into their Swiss chalets for 50 years, and come out, and it'll all be sorted out. Okay? They don't have to do anything. We are perfectly capable of doing the damage ourselves. Now, if you don't want to be on the shitty end of that stick, if you don't want to be forced out of your urban habitat into an inhospitable and alien landscape that has been blasted with pollution and asphalt and concrete and destruction, okay, then you need to look at your urban habitat and decide how that can be made more sustainable.
Right.
Now, you can do that if you apply a lot of your understanding of urban horticulture, like vertical gardening and taking out the asphalt parking lots and planting your gardens there, rooftop gardens. You can turn your urban landscape into something resembling human habitat. You just bring the green back in.
Because
if you don't do
everything
that,
about the way,
then you're going to have to leave your urban habitat, which is right now the only habitat you've got. And you're going to, certainly the only habitat you know, and you're going to have to venture into the inhospitable wastes that we've created everywhere else.
Right. Yeah. That we have our urban cores are better for our transition off of fossil fuels because we have resources that we don't need a car and we could walk to, but we have to get off of that as well. And so what we need is that transition to being fossil fuel free, that the store is not going to be providing the food. That's the longer trajectory. That we've got our stores.
Take that long.
Okay, and he's
no, I'm 5,
I'm
10
saying
years
longer. So
longer than what? I mean, it's pretty soon.
Right now we can get our food. We can walk to our farmers markets. We can walk to our grocery stores, but there is no urban sustainability of growing the food right here. We have paved it over. There's no orchards and things like that.
The key to this discussion is
urban sustainability.
The only habitat you know right now is urban habitat. Nobody, to speak of, lives in a natural habitat. Everybody lives in either the suburbs or the urban landscape or some transition, like the grain belt of the Midwest. That's also heavily engineered.
Well,
not natural at all. So between the urban landscape and what we call the rural landscape, which has also been heavily engineered, there's no natural habitat for you.
Well, let's go.
You have to take your current habitat. Because there's nothing else. You think there's something else. You think you're going to disappear up in the piney woods and live like a hermit. No, we can't
do that.
You're not going to do that.
We have found that didn't work.
That's not going to work because that's going to burn.
Right.
Okay. So you think you're going to do that? Actually, go right ahead, please. Bye-bye. See you never. Okay. Because you're going to burn to death up there. Now, for the rest of us, what's the story? The story is your current habitat. The only habitat you have known for, I would say, 600 years is the urban habitat. The suburban habitat is going to have to be surrendered. There's nothing there. Nothing there.
Right.
The urban habitat at least has the centers of power, communication, organization. It's all there. So you could at least convert that into a sustainable habitat. It's all you've got. You could abandon it, and then you're out of the frying pan into the fire, as far as I'm concerned. So you're gonna have to take what you've got and somehow re-engineer it, retool it to be sustainable.
Okay, that's it.
And you have to do that.
You have to do that. Okay, then that's the story. That is the story. Because right now we live in an urban. I was thinking urban hell. I mean, really, we're like in a. I guess we'd be considered
everything is
in a like Kat says, like a cave that everything is brought to us. But out there is really ugly. There's nothing that we can survive on our own.
You kind of mangled that sentence. We live like tigers in a cage in a zoo.
Yeah.
And that's called the deal. All right. And the deal is you will live in this cage. People will come to be entertained by you since you're a tiger. Our half of the deal is we will bring you your food, your water. We'll take away your wastes. We'll take care of your health, and we'll protect you from harassment.
Take away your health. I don't know if they take care of our health, but they don't do that.
We'll talk about the tiger.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so that's the deal. You live in your cage, and we'll take care of everything for you. You do nothing all day except look beautiful in your stripes, and we'll take care of everything for you. Okay, that's the deal.
Yeah.
But the truth is, that tiger is in a cage, and if the zoo closes its doors, and there's a hurricane or something, and they can't get to the zoo. There's riots outside in the streets, and the zookeepers can't get to the zoo. then the deal is off, right?
Mhm.
Deal is off.
Mhm.
You're still a tiger in a cage,
Mhm.
but the deal is off. So where's your water? Where's your food? Where's your, who's going to take away your waste products?
Right.
And so the deal only works so long as everyone holds up their end of the deal. And when you're living in a city, you're like a tiger in a cage.
But
as long as you have a job,
Yeah.
you get your paycheck, you can convert your paycheck into the things you can't do for yourself, like food, shelter, water, clothing, medical care. Okay, you're just a tiger in a cage. You work during the day, you come home at night, you're tired, then there's food. Now you're buying the food, you're shopping for the food, but the guy gave you the paycheck and the money in your bank so you could buy the food. And that's the deal. That's the deal.
But the one thing that,
Just
the
goes round and round.
urban core,
And so long as they hold up their end of the deal, then it works.
Right.
But what happened with the pandemic?
Right.
They did not hold up their end of the deal. They just sent people home. Oh yeah, we're closing up the shop. If you can work from home, work from home. Oh, you can't work from home. Well, you're going to be home anyway, and you're fired. And maybe we'll give you unemployment, but that's going to be for a little while.
But the thing,
and they're not holding up their end of the deal.
Yeah.
And people are living in terror now.
Right.
Like that tiger in that cage who hasn't been fed, hasn't been watered.
The point I was trying to make too was that in this urban core, we have brought our civilization to a much better level of freedom from fossil fuels, and we've been working on it. And we have been. That's why we have a walkable neighborhood right here. Yeah. So we have created this. This is our little, like a jumping. What's that called? Like when you dive into something. Springboard. This is a springboard. So this is a good place for us to live, but we got to take it to another level. And what Kat's saying is that so we don't rush to the hills to start growing our food up there.
We need another deal. We need a better deal.
We need another deal. And it's a critical point, and COVID-19 has shown us we need to be outside. That's one. We need to, there's a lot of things that are concurrency with climate change and COVID-19. And so what we're saying that I want to see in this property right here in my neighborhood is I want it to be a community garden. I want it to be a garden and not a community garden. And I want it to be, what would you call it? The valley of, bring back a demonstration project, where we take the asphalt and we turn it into a food-producing native habitat, rewilding.
Native habitat is food producing.
Not native. So, but a combination. That is
not your goal.
A combination of native plants.
Urban gardening. Yeah. I'll talk to you about urban gardening.
Okay.
But that is not urban gardening. What you just described is not it.
Well, that is food production and native plants to bring in, create an ecosystem.
Okay, I got bad news for you. It's not going to be native. It can't be. For one thing, this is not undisturbed habitat. If you want to have native habitat, then stop fucking around outside of town. Okay, inside of town, you're feeding yourself. Okay, that's all you're doing.
But you do need flowers to bring the.
I did say you didn't.
No,
and you also need bees, and you need other
maybe
services.
The plants.
I didn't say you don't
have
need
enough
flowers. I said that you have to have food. Everything is food.
All right, everything is food. Everything is food. Everything is food. EIF. Okay.
Everything is food.
That's it. All right, that's food production.
And you're doing hydroponics, vertical gardening, rooftop gardening, and everything is food. Because it's taking a lot of your time, a lot of your resources, and that's maybe all.
Right. Okay.
And that's where food.
That the parking lot would become a demonstration garden to grow food. And then the building that's there, we could save that for indoor food production, microgreens.
Well, maybe if it's food production. Otherwise, you can't keep that building.
No. Then we have food school. Well, I was going to say the School of the Pagan Arts, but that doesn't go over good. It could be called, what would we call it? Ancient. What do we call it? School, fossil fuel free.
We've had these things before. We had 4-H. We had the Grange.
Learning to live without fossil fuels. The skills.
It doesn't matter what it's called. I'm telling you what it is.
Okay.
It's growing things to eat.
Yes.
And teaching people how to grow things to eat.
But even preserving foods, all those arts. That's what we're talking about.
No, that's.
And then we're
food
talking
preservation,
about food, clothes production, cloth production. Clothes.
Plant breeding, hybridizing, and whatever else you have to do.
So we called it in our homeschooling with our kids the School of the Pagan Arts. The pagan arts is a world made by hand. That's what we're talking about. That's why Kat said when we got a loom, he wanted us to keep the loom, even though we didn't. But we can get a loom, and we need to learn how to spin, and we need to learn how to make clothes. And these are the things that we have to start doing locally. And so what is it called? It's a world made by hand, a school, what would you call it?
I don't know. I don't want to get bogged
what do they call it in school?
Minutia. That's your job.
Class.
You can have that
It was called
conversation with yourself.
They were called
I don't need to have
home
that
economics.
I don't need to have that conversation. I have other things to do. I have a house to build.
Okay, fine. You build the house, and I already the software that goes in the house.
I do need you to understand
Yeah.
that when you retool your urban environment to be sustainable, that has nothing to do with the preservation of species. Nothing. You're growing food.
Okay.
Now, if there
we're only dealing with the human species.
If you want a variety of foods and you want to have a diverse diet and you want to represent foods from all continents, that's fine. But it's all food. It's got to be food.
Okay, it's all food.
The point of the urban island is that it is food.
All food. Okay, it's all food. It needs to be all food. That's then to preserve us as a species.
Yes.
The only us.
Remember, let me take it back a step.
Even
urban habitat is habitat. Okay, that's what we have now. We don't have anything else. You got your urban habitat. The problem with it is it can't feed you.
Right.
Fix that.
Okay, we have to fix that.
Fix that.
All right, we're fixing that.
Don't fix anything else first.
Right.
Fix that, and then you have an urban habitat that can feed you.
Right, and the flowers that are there will attract bees and will provide food. I mean, it doesn't have to have special flowers.
Okay, there can be a whole scientific approach to this.
Right.
You can have committees set up to analyze and evaluate horticultural species of every type of fruit, vegetable, root, fiber, everything, and say, food
production.
Here's a list of things you can grow. If you want to be a producer, your rooftop garden, your vertical garden. Here's the things that we actually know will grow well in this community and that we want to eat and have available.
And a grange. I guess what it is, it's the grange of the a world made by hand. A grange. I don't know how we call it. The grange, which is the grains, the food production.
I'll tell you what you do. If you want to figure out what this looks like and what this is, you do a Google search on what other countries are doing. The UK has been doing this. Germany's been doing this. France has been doing this.
What? Growing food, urban?
Trying to fix their urban habitat.
Okay, right.
We're not doing that.
Right.
Because we are thralls to capitalism and consumerism. We don't do these kind of things. Right. But if you want to do them, there are other people on this planet
that's
doing that.
What's his name was talking about it, rewilding. They were talking about that in the UK.
I'm not talking about rewilding.
We're talking about food. So what you're talking about is
I'm talking about urban island food.
Urban island food.
I'm not talking about rewilding.
Okay.
Now, that is something you can do in parallel with feeding yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They are different, and they don't have to overlap, and they should not overlap.
Right.
Because the things you would do to feed yourself might not be compatible with native species.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, it'd be great if it was.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if the native bees came into our urban island to pollinate our crops. That would be fantastic. I'd be so thrilled. Look, the native bees are having a comeback because we stopped using pesticides. That would be fantastic, okay? But that's not actually the goal. The goal is to feed ourselves in the most productive way possible.
It's very
provided that it's sustainable.
It's centered, even though agriculture to really be successful is a multi-species event. You need the bees, the worms, and there's a lot of.
Won't even argue that.
For not only the what do they call the pollinators. But
everything has to produce food for humans.
Okay, so you can
Even your bees produce honey.
Right. And even our zucchini flowers are they like those
they love your zucchini and your almonds and your peas and beans.
And if we could have a beautiful orchard across the street, then the more of these we have, then the more food there is for the pollinators.
You should look down on an urban area like San Jose, and from space it's green.
Okay, right.
The way you do that is every rooftop is a garden.
Right.
Every balcony is a garden. The roads.
Food producing.
The roads have been reduced to narrow paths with green on both sides. The sidewalks have planters all along, constantly. Right. The length of the sidewalk.
And our homes and our gardens, every home
in planters is edible.
And it used to be that way. That's what, I told you, Paul, our neighbor, said that there was in the front yard, there were chickens and there was, people were growing food everywhere. And now we've gotten into this royalty thing of the grass and, and the blowers, and it's just a mess. So we're growing.
Well, so what you're saying, how that happened, that's consumerism. We were sold that.
Yeah. So what we're saying is
people will never know another way.
You focus on food production, and then the the biodiversity will come right from there.
I don't know that it will, but in your urban island, that is actually not a target.
It's really survival of the humans?
Yes.
The human survival of the
Yes.
humans.
In your urban island, which is a artificial habitat for humans, biodiversity is not.
Okay.
And I'm a biologist.
Prerequisite. It's not a prerequisite.
And I'm a biologist, and I'm telling you, that is not your primary target.
Okay, it's really surviving ourselves.
Now,
is what you're saying.
let me point out what happens when your urban island can produce most or all of the food you need.
Yeah.
Then you stop invading the natural habitat and you leave it alone, and it rewilds on its own.
Yes. Right. Okay. Right. Yeah,
so now your urban island is resilient and
And
self-sustained.
the thing
and
that
the surrounding habitat can go completely wild.
Right. Right. And that's the beautiful
And then
thing.
you get what you want,
right,
which is diversity and native species, native animals, and native habitat left alone.
in
No
the woods.
humans.
Right. And no cars going up there to go jog for 12 miles. Because
you'd make those places completely off limits.
Right. The thing is,
you want to jog, go jog down the street here.
The way it changes.
And pull some weeds while you're jogging.
We did it.
We've been trying to catch that mouse.
We got him. Oh, here we are killing animals. But he was in my habitat.
He's in my habitat.
He was in my territory.
And I'm telling you,
we felt good about it. Okay, so let me tell you, I had this inspiration, which was really exciting. That the transition we're making here is solving. So this is the wicked problem, and we're solving it. Because
no, you don't solve wicked
Well,
problems.
we're working on it. We're working on it because we're
You're trying to cut the Gordian knot.
Gordian knot. I'm trying. Okay, the Gordian knot. And what I realized is that if which God has said we all need to do, is everybody is growing food in every location, every property that they own, every piece of land that they own, their side yard, their front yard, their verge, also called the parking strip. Let's not call it that anymore.
It's not the parking strip. It's the planting strip.
It's the planting strip, no longer parking strip. And so, okay, and this is where everybody needs to learn, I guess. And that's what I realized is that the way you get people to stay home is you give them something to do at home. We have nothing to do at home. That's why we're going up to the mountains.
So that's the problem. Fine, but that's backwards. The way you get people to stay home, you don't do that. They'll shoot you in the face. Okay.
What? To tell them to stay home?
Yeah. And number two, it will become very obvious, even to the pinhead crowd, that you don't have free time.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is that when you're growing food,
you don't have free time.
You got little babies coming up, and you can't just go away.
You're a farmer.
Right.
And you're a farmer now because
you're a producer.
That's how you eat.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how you eat because the fossil fuel gravy train has stopped.
So when they say,
now you're a farmer.
Right.
Now you've got chickens and vegetables and seedlings.
And when they say,
and it's hot, you have to water it every day.
Home.
You have to pick your food. You have to do your canning.
Yeah. Right.
Dehydrating.
That's how you get a resilient neighborhood.
You have to protect your garden from marauding squirrels and rabbits, and you're home.
Right.
Not because I said so, or because the dirty hippie said so, but because you have to stay home, or you're not going to eat.
Right.
And you don't have to tell people stay home. When the fossil fuel gravy train halts at the end of the line, and everyone gets off the gravy train, then you're going to have to either grow your own food or die.
Right. And so when the guy said on the news,
you have those two choices.
When the guy said on the news,
I'm not going to tell you what.
If I lose my job, I will die. We have a solution for you. You don't have to die. You can grow your own food.
You know what that asshole will tell you? I have to grow food now. Well, then I'd rather die.
Okay.
They would actually say
then die.
Then die, for fuck's sake. I don't even care. Please do quickly.
Don't get COVID before you die.
I'll stand here and watch. Just do it quickly, okay? Boat anchor?
What is it called? Survival of the fittest. Let's be fit.
Yeah. There are a lot of people lining up for the Darwin Award at this point.
So, okay, I'm working on my paper. I'll work on that. All right, love you. Thank you, honey. So, you have to grow food and create urban, what do you call it?
Learn how to grow food.
And green our urban environment, or we will not survive. That's from the biologist, Sam. We will not survive.
Inform you, my fellow sapiens, learn how to grow food or die.
Or perish. Okay, there it is. And that is our transition. It'll help us.
Choice.
Okay.
Broadly applied.
All right, good. All right. Broadly applied, and that's where we need exactly what he's been saying. So
that's your choice. Broadly
applied, meaning grow it. Every one of us grow. Every one of us.
Figure out how to feed yourself, or volunteer to die.
Right. Okay, that's it. All right. You want to take
volunteering to die is fine.
Oh, did you take yours off? Oh no, here it is. All right, good. All
Did you
right.
go stop that?
Yeah. Oh. I have no idea where we were. Or, let me
Doesn't
see.
even matter.
Let's see what we'll learn from this.
Stop.
I don't know what the image looks
Do you know
like.
what to do?
Yeah, I hit end stream.
Yep.
Your stream will stop